Welcome to the Strange Encounters podcast. This podcast is based on real events, but it represents my interpretation of those events. Some details have been adapted for storytelling purposes, and certain names, locations, and identifying characteristics may have been changed to protect the privacy of individuals involved. Welcome to the house by the cemetery. During the summer between the first and second year of university, a lot of weird things have happened. Things I cannot explain. I thought that moving to the new house, I would finally get the time and space to breathe and recover from a crazy summer break. But you know how they say that every house has its own story, owner, and ghosts? I thought the meaning was figurative, not literal. This house had an owner, and it was not those living there or the landlord, but someone who should have moved on a long time ago. But I don't blame them. It's a beautiful, spacious 1930s house with Tudor Revival architecture. The first time I went to view it with my housemates, we fell in love with it. The room's spacious, bathroom and separate toilet, even a garden, and all for a decent price. I was so blinded that I ignored the unsettling feeling inside the house and that it was located opposite an old church with a cemetery built in the 1880s. For the first 2 weeks there, I was on my own. My housemates were still at home, and university wasn't starting until a few weeks' time. My landlord allowed me to move in a little bit earlier due to my work arrangements. I was lucky. My room was biggest in the house, located on the first floor at the bottom of the corridor, right next to the bathroom, but my room window overlooked the cemetery across the street. The first night there, I passed out on the bed. I was so tired from moving the boxes in multiple trips that I didn't care much, until at 3 a.m. I was woken up by loud creaking noises outside the room. I thought to myself, it's an old house, surely it's fine, until I heard the footsteps. Not again! Please, not again! I thought to myself. Fear and panic flooding over me. A disturbing feeling of darkness, suffering, and dread. The footsteps stopped outside my door. I slowly moved out of the bed. I thought maybe someone broke in. Desperately searching to find anything in my room which I could use to protect myself. Then the door slowly opened. I cannot even explain the fear that I felt in that moment. The feelings of uncertainty, fight or flight. The light switch was close to the door, so it was dark, but I couldn't see anyone. I grabbed my phone from the bedside table and turned on the flashlight, shouting, "Please, leave me alone! I will call the police!" But no movement. No footsteps. Just eerie silence. So I sprinted across the room to the light switch, watching the door. The first thing I found was a perfume bottle, and it was probably stupid, but I felt the urge to go and check the whole house. Everything inside me screaming, "Don't go, don't go!" But I ran from one light to another, room to room, and I found no one. Everything appeared to be in the same place that I left it. I reassured myself that I probably haven't shut the door properly. Eventually, I managed to fall asleep for a few hours at sunrise. I had the day off next day anyway, so I managed to get enough sleep to function. I asked my friend to stay with me for a few nights with the pretext of helping me to unpack, and she agreed. It was already Wednesday, and my boyfriend at the time was coming to stay with me for the weekend. The next night wasn't too bad. My friend and I heard the floors creak and footsteps, but rightly or wrongfully, I didn't tell her about my first night there. She wouldn't have wanted to stay with me, but I continued to have a similar feeling, but not as intense, until Thursday night. That night, we were woken up by a loud bang downstairs in the kitchen. I jumped up like a scared cat, my body ready to fight. Moments later, the stairs creaking. Thumps, as if someone was heavily stomping up on them. The creaking worsened outside my room. We heard the bathroom door and the cupboard door creaking open. Oh, please, not my door next, I thought. I grabbed my phone to shine the torch, too terrified to move and investigate, followed by silence. We looked at each other, confused. Then at the door, feelings and expressions of pure terror. What just happened? Should we, go check, or? I asked hesitantly. My friend was still frozen. What was that? Is someone here? I'm scared. I knew I had to put on a brave face. After all, I had a suspicion that whatever or whoever it was returned. Maybe I should go check? But please come with me, I asked my friend. She refused initially, but to be honest, I didn't want to leave her alone either. I explained to her that it'll probably be safer for us both to go, and she unwillingly agreed. Together, we slowly made our way towards the door. I switched the light on, and slowly, but cautiously, opened the door. We struggled to believe what we saw. The cupboard doors were open, contents from the inside scattered in the hallway, as if an animal done it. The bathroom door, open. No one to be seen. We slowly made our way downstairs, extremely watchful of every corner. We finally approached the kitchen and switched the light on. I was afraid to see what made that noise earlier, but it was the pots and pans in the middle of the kitchen. I questioned, did they move and fall? Maybe, but how do I explain them being right in the middle of the kitchen and all the kitchen cupboard doors being open? I questioned, was it an intruder? But they didn't take anything, and all the doors and windows were shut. We were both freaked out, panicked and shocked. We both decided to grab the car keys and leave. Until today, I try to process and come up with explanations on what could have happened, but nothing so far explains what we both heard and consequently saw. Finally, the weekend arrived, and my boyfriend arrived to stay with me. I only returned to the house at around the same time as he did. I explained to him what happened, and he found it hard to believe, but shared a few of his own family experiences. We cleaned up the kitchen and hallway, connected my TV in an attempt to distract myself from what happened the night before. Each night, the unsettling feelings would worsen. Feelings of being stuck in fight or flight response. Feeling of something evil. I started to take herbal medication to help me fall asleep. I wasn't alone, but I knew I wouldn't be able to sleep, and I knew that I couldn't go on like this. I was only getting a few hours of sleep per night. On Saturday night, I laid in bed scrolling on my phone, my boyfriend asleep. It was probably close to midnight, and my sleeping tablets must have worked because I felt sleepy. So I put my phone on the bedside table, and made sure that I complete my daily nighttime routine. I checked under the bed, in each corner of the room, and turned on my side, facing towards the door, just in case anyone did come in. Of course, I didn't forget to cocoon myself into the covers, ensuring that each body part of me is covered. Eventually, I fell asleep. I don't know how long it was, but suddenly, I felt something jumping over my torso from my boyfriend's side. I felt the passing of the weight from one side to the other. Confused, I instantly opened my eyes, and there he was. A shadow, staring at me. My boyfriend, or so I thought. I initially thought that he was trying to creep me out. In the shadows, the face looked goofy and silly, smiling at me, sticking the tongue out. But when his face started to change, I realised it wasn't him. The air started to thicken. It was difficult to breathe. Although it was dark, I saw its face, staring deeply into my soul. The appearance of a human male, but the presence of something completely evil. It felt familiar to what I have felt each day, but a lot stronger. Was I hallucinating? Or was it a demon? I still don't know until today, but it felt extremely real, and I knew what I saw. As it moved closer and closer to my face, its smile started to drop, its face becoming droopy, its tongue sticking out. It reminded me of Goddess Kali, but in a male form. It ended up directly in front of me, eye to eye. I felt its cold breath on my face as it licked my cheek. It sent shivers down my spine. I tried to scream, but I couldn't. I tried to run. I couldn't. I tried to fend it off. I couldn't. Paralysed, I laid there, eyes wide open, helpless and vulnerable. I started to feel a pressure on my arms, as if it was trying to get me out of my cocoon. It was getting worse and worse. Panicked, I tried to get my boyfriend's attention, but nothing worked. It sat on me, the pressure getting worse. I thought that was it, that my time on this earth has come to an end. And then I felt a hand from behind me, shaking me. I was turned around, and it was my boyfriend. The presence disappeared. I could finally move. A large weight lifted off my chest. I felt like I escaped death itself. I was crying, shaking. I have never been so afraid in my life. I was scared to leave the room and scared to leave the bed. I sat up most night, closely watching each area of the room, vigilant, ready for the worst. All I knew at this point is that whatever or whoever it was, they wanted to highlight that it was their house, that we were the intruders and they wanted us out. And I know some will say that it was sleep paralysis, and maybe it was, and that's how I tried to explain it to myself, so that I could actually continue living in that house. But what I felt and saw was so familiar, too familiar to what I have felt every day since moving into this house. I mean, how can I even explain that feeling to someone who has never experienced it? But I continued to lie to myself. I told myself it was my imagination, alongside lack of sleep. But these strange encounters continued. I had to be on my own during the week, so before my boyfriend left, we installed a latch on the inside of my room. Some nights, I would stay at my friend's, but on a few nights, I stayed at the house. The first few nights I stayed away, but when I returned, my built-in wardrobe was open, with all of my clothes, which were on hangers, being on the floor. I rationalised this to an old, unsteady door, and that my clothes were not hung up properly. But I also felt the presence when I was in the bath or showering. A few times, lights switched off and on their own. It got to the point where I started to bring in a battery-powered light just in case, and I tried to ignore everything that was going on. But the lock seemed to help, so every time I was in my room, I got into the habit of locking it. I would still hear footsteps and creaking outside, but I felt safer. I was even able to sleep. Then the weekend came, and my housemates started to arrive throughout the weekend. Again, I didn't want to scare them, so I told them about the creaky floors, but kept the rest to myself. I thought that maybe I was just targeted, or maybe I was delusional or crazy. And until today, I don't know which one it was, because although a few small things spooked them, nothing major happened to them like it did to me, and not much happened that weekend anyway. Throughout the next few weeks, the feelings of the presence continued. I felt watched when I was cooking, eating, drinking and bathing. I also felt followed around, especially up and down the stairs. I actually started to run up the stairs because I felt like I was being chased. That could be me being overly sensitive, but I could swear I would see a shadow behind me. I thought that maybe things were settling, but then another night came where it got really bad. I woke up in the middle of the night feeling extremely thirsty, and while I usually would avoid going down at night, knowing my housemates were there and the fact that my mouth was extremely dry, I felt compelled to. I attempted to get out of bed and go get a drink, but I couldn't move. I felt a heavy pressure on my legs, as if someone was sat on them. I looked up and saw a shadow sat at the end of the bed. It looked like it was staring in my direction. I started to panic and kick my legs. I also grabbed my phone and turned the flashlight on. And as soon as the light came on, the pressure and the shadow figure disappeared. I began to fear that the lock was not effective anymore, until I realised that the door was unlocked and I must have forgotten. With my mouth feeling worse, I went down to get a drink. I switched the lights on and walked down the stairs as quick as I could. As I was passing the living room, with the corner of my eye, I saw someone sat in the chair, a male of a large build. Panicked, I chose to ignore it and pretended it was in my imagination. On my way back, I contemplated, do I run up or do I walk past slowly, making sure that no one is in there? I chose to run and shut the living room door instead, but I still saw it, sat there, still, staring, and as I shut the door, I could have sworn I heard, "Get out!" shouted. I ran up the stairs as fast as I could, leaving the light on in the corridor. I didn't care at this point. I locked my door and called my mum. I could not calm myself down, and I explained to her what happened. It honestly feels like such a blur, and I don't even remember what my mum said, but her words were comforting. And since that night, I made sure not to leave the room at night. I locked my door every time I was in there, but regardless, the weeks of constant terror, disturbed and lost sleep, and fear had drained me. A lady at work noticed that I looked tired. She asked me what was going on, and I told her that she wouldn't believe me. But eventually, I told her. I didn't know what else to do, and I became so desperate. And she believed me. She even told me that her grandmother had similar strange encounters. Anxiously, I asked her what helped, and she told me that sprinkling holy water around the house did, and that she could bring me some from her grandmother. Even though I'm not religious, I was so desperate that I agreed. The next day, she brought in a small jar. I must admit, I wasn't sure how I felt about it and how to even use it. A lot of questions flooded in my head about what if it didn't work, or what if it made it worse. So I done some research on how this works and how to use it appropriately. I even came across a website which talked about setting intention and ensuring that whoever or whatever it is knows that I am not there to harm them. I am only there temporarily. I waited until everyone left the house for university. The anticipation and self-doubt building up. I started to think, maybe I shouldn't do it. Maybe I should just leave it alone and try to live with it until university finishes. But I just felt like I couldn't do this anymore. The last few months absolutely destroyed me. They felt like the longest months of my life. It also felt like it was getting worse, and we only have been in the house a few months. And what if it did get worse? So I decided to try. I sat down on my desk chair, took the jar, and spoke my intentions into the water. The water protects me and those living in the house. It cleanses this place from all spirits and impurities. I felt silly doing that, and I started to hear footsteps outside of my room, and I told myself, maybe someone returned home from university earlier. So I opened the door, but there was no one there. Suddenly, my housemate's door opened. I ran in to check if it was him, but no one was there. Then the bathroom door smashed, and I heard footsteps running into my room. Hesitantly, I took careful steps towards my room, the floor creaking beneath my feet. The silence felt painfully loud, so I started to calmly speak. I am not here to harm you. I am only here for my university year. This is your house, not mine. And I slowly approached the room, peeking from around the corner, but all my drawers and wardrobe were open. The room appeared dark, even though it was only around midday, and the same feeling as all the other times. But I continued to talk. I had to. I already started. I will stay out of your way. Please stay out of mine whilst I live here. I mean you no harm. And I started to sprinkle the holy water. In that moment, all I thought about was, will it harm me? Is it truly evil? The wardrobe door started to close, the books on my desk falling onto the floor, one by one, as if someone was pushing them. I continued to say the same thing over and over again, my speech faster with every word. I am not here to harm you. I am here to harm you. This is your house. This is your house. I will stay out. I will stay out. Please stay out. Please stay out of mine. I mean you no harm. I will leave this house. I will leave this house in a few months. My heart was pounding out of my chest. Shallow and fast breathing, tight chest, nauseous feeling. Everything was becoming loud and overwhelming. Please work, I thought in my head, whilst continuing to speak and sprinkle the holy water. I then started to hear loud footsteps walking towards me. I thought, this is it. It's going to harm me. It sounded like it was angry, thumping its feet on the floorboards. And then I felt this chilling feeling, goosebumps, as if a whiff of air, but the window wasn't open, followed by silence. An uncomfortable feeling of nothing. Has it left? Did it work? I remember doing this across the whole house. Since, I still felt the presence, and I still heard the footsteps and creaking, but it felt different, less sinister and threatening. It felt as if it was exactly doing what I begged it to, for us to stay out of each other's way. Is that what it wanted? Did it want to know that I wouldn't harm it? Was it not evil after all, and just wanted to protect its house? But from then on, I was able to go downstairs into the kitchen at night. I was able to fall asleep easy, without dreading each night. Placebo effect? Maybe, or maybe it actually worked. And to be honest, I don't care which one it was. I was able to survive my university year without further strange encounters to that extent. Until today, I avoid going near the house. When I have to, I still get that unsettling feeling. The same feeling when I lived there. And I swear that I can see a face in the living room window, sat on that chair and watching. And sometimes I wonder, should I knock on the door and see if whoever lives there is experiencing what I have? Maybe I can help them, but that would make me look like a lunatic. But whoever lives there, I hope that they find a way to live in the house opposite the cemetery.
Get out!